9 games on Monday's MLB slate. Which of those games should you be betting on? That's what you're here to find out. That's right. First pitch here on WagerTalk TV. And joining me today, breaking down Arizona, Cleveland, Houston, Texas, Cardinals, Mets, and the Reds taking on the Marlins are two of my favorite guests here. That's right. Drew Martin and Adam Trigger kicking off a week here at WagerTalk TV. A week that football is back, meaning that you're going to be seeing Drew Martin on the opening line report. But, Drew, we got plenty of diamond to get into before we get into gridiron. So let's start with you, Arizona and Cleveland, D-backs and Guardians. Man, the Guardians, talk about a team that's cooled off a little bit since the All-Star break, a team that was dominant on the back end, hitting backed them up as well. They're kind of looking to return to form after kind of slogging out of the All-Star break. Bad news for them, though. A team that has been red hot as long as Zach Gallen is on the mound is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that's who they face off against tonight. So haven't lost a start or haven't lost a game with the Zach Gallen start, have the D-backs since the break. So, Drew, do we just ride that trend? We expect it to continue. How are you looking to bet this one?
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, I mean, actually, pretty much what you just teed up there. I'll go a little bit more in detail, but Logan Allen, the starter for Cleveland, who you're right, they have faded off a little bit. He's called up from AAA Columbus to make this start. He had near a 6 ERA in his MLB outings this year, Dan, and he had 35 walks, which, starting pitchers struggling with control like that isn't necessarily a recipe that I like to back. And it's not like he fixed it in the minors. He had 3 short outings with 7 walks there. So now he's going up against the D-backs lineup that one thing I like to do in this kind of time period, late summer of the MLB season, is look at these lineups and how they do after the All-Star break. Are they hitting the ball well? Are they cooling off like you brought up with Cleveland? Well, actually, Arizona, top 3 lineup by weighted runs created plus since the break. So he's got a tough outing here against this D-backs lineup. And you mentioned Zach Gallen. Well, first of all, the Diamondbacks have won 5 of their last 6 games. And Zach Gallen, the 29-year-old out of UNC, the former Tar Heel, he's won 3 straight, he's recorded the win 3 straight times out. So I'm looking to bet on him. The 3.5 ERA, 3.3 FIP. I think he has a good start here. And, the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, not one of the best bullpens, but we got to remember with the trade deadline, you got to keep up with some of this stuff, particularly bullpen arms, Dan. And they added AJ Puck, one of the better relievers, in my opinion, really across all of baseball. He was great in that Marlins bullpen. He got the save yesterday. That's just one outing. But, he should be ready to go here for the Diamondbacks in the later innings. And I like the D-backs. Listing Zach Gallen as the starter, what we can get him for, well, it was minus 112. Now it's as high as minus 120. Some of that my money, Dan. But, yeah, I like the Diamondbacks here.
Diamondbacks, the play out of the gate. Hop below in the comments if you're joining us live or watching us on the rewatch. We appreciate it. While you're down there, hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe, hit the little bell, and you'll know when we go live. If you're watching us on TikTok, Instagram, X, make sure you hit that follow button. We'll be right there in the timeline, getting you that info that you know, you love, and you need to bet all the sports that you're looking to play this year. Adam Trigger, WT.buzz/AT is where you can find him at over at WagerTalk.com. Cards and Mets is the game you want to talk about here at the top. And folks, hop below in the comments. I know it's a short slate, but any other games you want to hear about, touch upon here with the guys before we get into best bets. But, man, the start of the 10-game road trip, not very kind to the New York Metropolitans. They dropped the series to the Angels, and now they'll try and right the ship a little bit. Now they're traveling to St. Louis. What do you think about these road woes? Expecting them to continue here on a Monday?
Well, I think it's important to note, Dan, they have a quick layover in St. Louis. This is not where they were headed next, but they have to kind of make the detour to make up a game with the Cardinals. They're on their way to Denver, and they've got to now go Anaheim to St. Louis for a day to play this game to Denver. And they couldn't even really accommodate the Mets with a day game, or at least an early day game, because the Cardinals played last night on Sunday Night Baseball. So this is something I've talked about a little bit. I think the Sunday Night Baseball playing the next day is an overreaction that the books typically have priced in. I think maybe 15 years ago it was a good angle. I think now it's usually baked into the number. Do I think it's a big deal that the Cardinals would be playing a home game the day after playing at Wrigley Field a couple hours away? No, I wouldn't think that would be a reason to not bet the Cardinals. Nor do I think having this game moved up a little bit is a reason to not play on the Cardinals. So I'll tend to look for spots to do that because I think the books typically price it into the number because they know the average bettor knows at this point to play against the teams that played on Sunday night. At least they think they should. The far more profitable thing to do is fade these teams that have travel in the one-off spots. Now,
True.
Ralph could probably queue up like the last 10 years of these. I'm just going by recent memory. I know the one that stands out in my mind from this season is the Braves having to go to Chicago. The other Chicago, the White Sox, for a one-off game, I believe they were a $3 favorite and lost the game 1-0. And I think that there's, from memory, this always seems to be tougher, right? Like having to, kind of hit the city on your way to the next city, which is the spot the Mets are in right now. So it also feels like a pretty big game for the Cardinals. Now, they just came in. They were playing good ball sort of around the All-Star break, but they went to Wrigley over the weekend, lost 3 of 4. They lost last night. They've now dropped 7 of their last 11, and they play a bunch of winning teams coming up. It's going to be tough for the Cardinals. 28 of their next 31 games against teams above 500. Now, the reason that this is not going to make my client card, I do have my concerns for the Cardinals against left-handed pitching. Right now, the only team worse against left-handed pitching with a worse OPS, that is the Marlins. They've really struggled against left-handed pitching. They struggled against Justin Steele last night. And, Manaea is another one that's been pitching well, but they did go out and get Tommy Pham for this reason. The big reason, they wanted to acquire a guy like Tommy Pham is because it helps them out against left-handed pitching. And Pham has been awesome. He's hitting .381 since showing up in St. Louis, and he's 6 for 12 lifetime with 2 doubles and 2 home runs against Manaea. So that certainly helps the Cardinals here. I also think that, even with Manaea's recent form, I don't think he's Justin Steele. I think he's a step down from there. So, you see Steele last night. Maybe this is a little bit easier of a left-handed pitcher. The Cardinals have also already seen Manaea this year. So, and they were able to score 3 runs in 6 innings off of him. I think they'll be able to do something here. Finally, Andre Palente is the starter for the Cardinals. He's a guy that I think flies under the radar because he pretty much does whatever they need him to do. If they need a start, they'll give him a start. If they want him out of the bullpen, he'll throw innings out of the bullpen. And he's kind of been, he's filled in nicely as a starter. 2.73 ERA in his last 5 starts. And he is outstanding first time through the order, Dan. Some of the best numbers of any starter in Major League Baseball first time through the order. And sometimes in a game like this, a one-off game where, especially where you've got a team that's coming to town for a day and then they've got to go to the next city, it's all about setting the tone. If the Mets fall behind early, they may kind of, throw in the towel a little bit, knowing that they've got to get out and go, kind of take care of business in Coors Field for the next 3 days. So Cardinals at a pick would be the way I lean here. There's reasons I'm not going to play it as a client play, but this is the standalone game, 5 p.m. Eastern. I know people are going to want an opinion on it, and I would take the Cardinals if I was betting this one.
Looking towards the Cards in the interesting little spot there for the Mets that definitely could use a little bit more stability. That's for sure. Shout out to the chat. We appreciate you tuning in, making us a part of your morning. Boss 429 Seth SRU Zen. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Hop below in the comments. Let us know if you have any games you want us to touch upon. Right out of the gate, Boss429 was talking some overs. Drew, we talked about this Guardians game with you right at the top. The other game that he's looking towards an over is one the market has pushed to 10 runs. Red Sox and Royals with Paxton and Singer on the mound in that one. Any thoughts here on the total? Anything stand out to you here for the Red Sox and the Royals? Because the over, the play for our man Boss, and I'm hoping he got that 9.5 before the market got painted here at 10. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting handicap. I mean, at first glance, though, it's a Royals home game with a double-digit total. So I'm not necessarily betting the under by any means here, Dan,
Yep.
but at the same time, that is a pitcher's ballpark, and that is a pretty high number. So, there might be some of those fly balls that don't necessarily make it out that would in other ballparks. In terms of the Cleveland-Arizona game, man, I would probably go more with the Arizona team total over, just because I could see Gallen having
correlated with
a pretty good start here, Dan. Kind of just reiterating with some of the reasons why I'm on the Diamondbacks, laying the 15 cents there.
Yeah, for sure. No, and again, it's kind of correlated with what you're looking at. You don't want to be betting an over when you're thinking that the pitcher there in Zach Gallen, who hasn't dropped a start since the All-Star break, is worth a look there. So there you go, boss. That's some thoughts on some potential over plays on a Monday. Hop below and let us know what overs you're eyeing, or I think we might be getting some unders with some of this pitching that we have on the mound here, like we have in the Phillies and Dodgers game. Seth S. brought it up. He said, hey, we know that it's a given they're going to talk about this game. You see all the Eagles crap behind me. You knew I was going to bring up the Phillies since they finally had a little bit of something to feel good about when the bats came alive. But now they travel to Dodger Stadium, and it's Nola versus Glass now on the hill in this one. Trig, I want to get your thoughts. We'll get Drew's as well, since this really is the marquee matchup of the evening, a 10-10 start. So can't even call it the D-Gen special because it's a marquee matchup here to end the day here in MLB. So Phillies Dodgers, Trig, could this be the under game, or are those bats finally alive? What do you think about this matchup?
I don't know if the bats are finally alive, but I think the Phillies might finally be alive after getting that win. Like, they needed something good to happen. They haven't, amazingly, the Phillies have not. They haven't won consecutive games since beating the Dodgers earlier this season. Of course, they swept them. That was right before the All-Star break. I believe they've lost like 13 of 18 since. So, but we know, like, the Phillies probably were never as good as they were pre All-Star break, where they were something obnoxious, like 20-something games over 500. They're not as bad as we've seen over the last 2 weeks. This is Major League Baseball. Just about every team is going to have that sort of ebb and flows. Even the best teams in the league go through a stretch of 20 to 25 days where they play bad baseball. So I wouldn't be dying to fade the Phillies right now. I think you missed your chance. And looking at this game, this matchup, two very good pitchers. It's relatively even. I could only play the Phillies at plus money here because I think it's not a game that I'm looking to bet, but with how sort of even this is, and of course the Dodgers and the way that they've, the Dodgers, I've said this pretty much at any show I've done for the last 3 weeks. I think this is a team that's probably going to fall back to the pack in the NL West. I think that either the Diamondbacks or the Padres or both could potentially catch them. So no, I'm not dying to play on the Dodgers. I could only fade them, and the Phillies at plus money seems like the play here.
Well, Drew, how about for you? Because, Zach Wheeler pitches an absolute dime yesterday. I think he got 9 strikeouts. The bats put across 6 with a couple different guys contributing to that. But it came off of the heels of 6 straight losses for the Phils that were lost in different fashions. Some of them close, some of them in extra innings, some of them just absolute blowouts. So does one win against Seattle when it was Wheeler versus Gilbert give you enough here to get excited, even with Aaron Nola, about this Phils team heading on into Dodger Stadium? Any thoughts? Just to go off of what Trig was mentioning there, Drew.
Sure, Dan. I mean, that's the tricky part about this business. Is that kind of the point where it does become a little bit of a buy low spot on the Phillies. I guess technically you're not catching a falling knife because they won yesterday. I'll tell you this. I do agree with a lot of what Trig said, Dan. I mean, yes, they lost 6 straight, winning yesterday. It is, they're on this West Coast road trip going from Seattle now to LA and then to Arizona. So what I look at, though, is Aaron Nola on the hill. And he actually went up against this Dodgers lineup just last month and went 6 innings, only 1 earned run. And that was off of 1 swing of the bat. He only gave up a solo shot against this Dodgers lineup with 9 strikeouts. So 9 Ks in 6 innings. I like that past performance. That's meaning, the Dodgers were having a tough time seeing him. So I like to bet on that again when a pitcher does that, Dan. And then also the starting pitching matchup here is Tyler Glasnow going for the Dodgers. Now, a big-time name, a lot of talent for sure. But when you look at his, the win-loss, it's just 8-6 on the season. And he's a guy that went on the IL with some back spasms about a month ago. He's had 2 starts since returning. Well, the Dodgers are 0-2 in those 2 starts, minus more than 3 units. He went off as the favorite in both of them, and they lost both of them. I don't necessarily like betting on pitchers like that. I want to see Glasnow have a solid performance, and he's going up against the Phillies lineup. They got some good lefties in that lineup. They are getting healthier now. Plus the fact it does need to be brought up, Dan, in my opinion, schedule spot. It's not great for the Dodgers. Yes, this is a big time matchup, 2 first place teams. It's a possible National League, championship series preview. So I'm not saying it's that big of a dud spot for them. But it is their first game home off of a 3-city road trip. I don't love betting on teams in that spot. And the Phillies bullpen has been, at least in comparison to the Dodgers bullpen has had some blowups. And Blake Treinen, he's off of back-to-back days, one of the arms in that bullpen, so he's likely not available. Overall, I agree with what Trigg said. I agree with some of the sentiment you were just pointing at there, Dan. I'm listing Aaron Nola as the starter, and I like the Phillies. Late night. Not necessarily degenerate special, but going to be a lot of tickets written here, and I'm on the Phils.
It's Drew Martin. You can find him on X at Drew Martin Bets. You can find him over at WagerTalkWT.buzz/DM. Trig, a question in the chat from David Talk that is just tailor-made for you is about fading the White Sox. Now, the running bit, if you've never tuned in before, is if anyone can find value on the Chicago White Sox, it's Trig when he tells you to bet them a run and a half, getting it on the run line. Seth S is also asking, did they hit 21? Are we getting a blackjack here when the A's and White Sox face off? Because David Talk was saying, do we just keep fading this team? And Seth S is wondering, are we hitting all the way to getting 21 in this one? They're looking for their 21st straight loss. And they oppose the Athletics here tonight. 9:40 to start in this one. There's no one who I want breaking down Chicago White Sox baseball other than Adam Trigger. So, Trig, what do you think about this marquee matchup?
Yeah. I think the books priced it correctly. I do. I would have, if they were going to really, really overreact here, which was a possibility given the historic losing streak, and they were to give me White Sox plus 1.5, say minus 115, I would be all over it. Probably be a 5% play for me. Because the A's, you have to look at it the other way. Who's dying to lay $1.80 with the A's? I get the A's have played better baseball, but I mean, that's almost as crazy, as taking the White Sox with a run and a half is laying that price with the A's, another team that's, going to finish, 20 games under 500 this year, maybe more. So, if you go back to the last start for Jonathan Cannon, that was a 4% play for me. White Sox did cover the 1.5 in that game. It was a 4-3 final. Jonathan Cannon threw a 1-hitter over 7 innings. And this is what I'll make this point about the White Sox. They're gonna win some games and they're gonna cover some numbers in September because a lot of these guys at AAA and AA right now for the White Sox have some talent. So when you start to see a lineup that you don't recognize, it's probably a good thing for the White Sox. They're not there yet. So that's something to point out. Other than Brooks Baldwin, a lot of the young guys are still at AAA and AA. But within the next month or so, you're going to get a total turnover in what you're seeing in the lineup. And then you've got guys like Jonathan Cannon. He's a very solid prospect that's now had some time to work it out at the big leagues. If you watch the game that he pitched against the Royals, you would there's no reason to lay $1.80 against that guy, right? And so for me here, White Sox plus 1.5 would have been the play, but I think the books priced it as perfectly as they could have. trying to make you lay trying to make you lay minus 140. There's no way I'm going to lay that kind of juice with the White Sox, and I don't think you're getting the right price to win outright at 155 or 160. So I have to pass it there, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at this game.
The real DMarque in the YouTube chat, he said he has the script. He says that they're going to get the win after a 23-game losing streak. He says it's for 23 MJ Chicago style. So we just trig. We fade him for 2 more games, and then we ride with the real DMarque with the script, and we give them the win after their 23 straight losses. Right? I mean, he's got the script.
The A's probably aren't going to sweep this series. So you're going to have, you're most likely going to have, like, the A's just had the Dodgers in town. That's a big deal for them. And 2 of the games were very competitive, right? Like, they're probably not going to come out off of that type of like high energy intensity weekend and sweep a professional baseball team. I don't care if it's the White Sox or whoever it is. So there's a White Sox win in here somewhere. I just don't know if it's tonight or not, but it's going to end, I think, on this series right here.
David saying White Sox stay away, or maybe a nerfy, maybe just a nerfy in that one. Hey, that's not a bad look to ask Chicago to not score a run there. Andrew Wojcik pointing out that the line may be absurd, yes, but friends don't let friends put their money on Chicago. He says A's team total. That's the way that he's going to look to bet that one. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button. Keep those comments coming. Let's talk some best bets here, guys, and then we'll run through any other games that we didn't touch upon yet if folks want to hear about them. But Drew, I'll throw it your way. First things first, you got a nice pack up over at WagerTalk, a 4-pack of plays. So on a short slate of baseball, you're giving out actionable info here for free. People should go on over and grab a 4-pack of plays on an 18 and 10 sides run, up 26% profit. So check Drew out, wt.buzz/DM. You can tell them about that offer over at your page. And also tell us how do we bet a game that it should be fun when you hear Houston and Texas, but then you just look at how these offenses have played, Drew, and it's like we just hold our nose and bet the under. Nine-game road trip starts here tonight for Houston. They've gotten just 1 run, Drew, in 19 innings. So both of these offenses need a boost, yes, but when I saw that number, eyes kind of popped out of my head. How are we betting this one, and what can people find over at your page at WagerTalk?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. I mean, I don't love that stat that you threw out there, but I will say this. The starting pitching matchup, I think, really favors Hunter Brown here in the Astros. I mean, you bring up the Astros struggles. I mean, the Texas Rangers have struggled as well, losing 4 of their last 5, 7 of their last 9. And really the story here with the starting pitching is Andrew Heaney, the lefty, going for the Rangers. He's just 4-11 on the season. He's given up 10 earned in his last 9 innings. So it's not like the Astros lineup has been hot by any means. You just pointed that out very eloquently there, Dan. But I think they could get to Heaney. And really, I've been betting Hunter Brown his last couple starts. This guy's been absolutely money. He's recorded the win in 8 of his last 10 starts. He's got 126 strikeouts on the season. I don't think enough people are paying attention to this young gun. 6 innings, 2 earned last time against the Texas Rangers. That was last month. I do give a slight bullpen edge here towards the Astros. So I just think it's a big starting pitching edge towards the Astros. Lone Star State battle, minus 115. I think the 15 cents is short. And Dan, you bring up the 4-play pack. Yeah, that is available. WagerTalk.com, just $19, so less than $5 a play. And the side run that you brought up, 18 and 10 over the last 3 weeks or so, maybe even the last month. But really, guys, it's about the profit, plus 26% profit. You know, in baseball, we got to remember these money line sports. You could run out there with a big win-loss record, but if you're laying minus 180, stuff like that, it really isn't all that sexy. It's about the profit, guys, and hitting a lot of dogs. So, when those big dogs are barking, you can really start to build the bankroll, and it's been a good run overall. Yep. So, yeah, check it out, WagerTalk.com, 4-play pack, less than $5 a play. So, always fun, Dan, and let's go on the Astros for the best bet.
And also check out coming your way at 1 o'clock Eastern today, the return of the opening line report. Drew Martin, Teddy Covers. That's right. NFL football is back. More reasons than ever to subscribe here at WagerTalk TV. So coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern, the opening line report is back. These guys will be fielding your questions. They'll be running down preseason games, giving you some early looks on maybe some potential future plays. So don't worry, we're going to keep you fed here with baseball winners on First Pitch, and these guys will as well over at wagertalk.com. But football is right around the corner, and the opening line report, the best way to kick it off. We got a best bet coming up from Trig. Ando over in the YouTube Shorts feed says Twins, A's, Dodgers, Giants, Mets, Reds, Guardians, Astros. One hell of a parlay. That's what he's running out there. Or if he's just naming his favorite teams. Ando, either way, best of luck to you on the plays, and best of luck if that is indeed the run to the bank and retire parlay that you're looking for. We'll be rooting for you, Ando. For you, Trig, let folks know what you have over at Wager Talk. And surprisingly enough, Drew didn't talk the Marlins today, but you're talking Marlins Reds in your big game, or your best bet here today. Martinez and Munoz are going to be our pitchers. How are we betting this one, and what can folks find when they partner with you, brother?
Yeah, I have a 4% play in Major League Baseball today. I haven't put the individual game brick up yet, but it will be as soon as we're off this show. So that's my best bet, 4% play Major League Baseball. But we have a great special at Wager Talk right now. You basically get the month of August free if you do a longer term special. I believe it's up on everyone's page. There it is. Yep. Buy 2 months, get August free from now until the 11th. With preseason football starting, I was 6-2 in the preseason last year. I think I've won in NFL preseason like 4 of the last 5 seasons. It's one of my favorite 3-week stretches of football of the whole year. So I'll have probably 8 to 10 plays in the preseason again this season. I expect to win, and it's obviously covered if you get the month of August. So, and then hopefully we can continue running well in Major League Baseball, which has been great all season. So as far as what my best bet for the show is going to be, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit here, Dan, because I've been the one sort of banging the drum for the Marlins on this show, right? Like I've talked about them probably since mid-June. I said when some of these young guys get into the mix, when they start to play and build for next year, that they're going to be a play-on team. And the Marlins have now been so good over the last couple weeks that I think the odds the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. They have not lost a series since the All-Star break. They're 9-7, and most of those wins are as an underdog. And because of how good they've been, the prices are starting to reflect this a little bit. And I think you almost need to, A, proceed with caution if you've been backing the Marlins, or B, what I would do here is just look to go against them in a matchup in a spot that doesn't really favor them, because when I was just looking at my screen here, I think the Reds are all the way down to -130, which is wild to me. And if this continues to drop, I might have a second client play today, because I don't know if I could leave it off if it gets much cheaper. The reason for the anti-Reds sentiment in the market right now, Dan, is they aren't hitting. They got no hit by Blake Snell on Friday. They dropped 2 of 3 to the Giants. I was on the Reds yesterday. That was a very ugly loss for them in a game where they squandered a couple opportunities and then kind of gave up late. They're hitting $198 in their last 15 games, which is not good at all. But I still think Cincinnati's the far superior team here. And the one thing I think is going to be key in this series that's going to really help this Reds team is they're probably going to have base runners. And that is where the Reds will absolutely kill you. They lead Major League Baseball in stolen bases. They are on pace for 234 stolen bases, which would be a top 5 mark in the last 40 years, Dan. They are running all over teams. Ellie De La Cruz has 57. And he was 0 for 11 over the weekend against the Giants. He's probably not going 0 for in this series. And when the Reds get guys on, it's pretty much a given that they're going to have a guy at third. And even though they couldn't cash in those opportunities yesterday, I think they're more likely to against a team like the Marlins, because the Giants will tip the cap there. They've been throwing the ball well. Their starting pitching's been awesome. And if you can keep the Reds off the bases, you have a much better chance to beat them. Now, on the Red side, Nick Martinez is a guy that I'm probably higher on than most. I've talked about him on shows for the past couple seasons. I thought what he did in Japan and then, coming back here and having, instant success in the big leagues was something to play on. The league has figured him out a little bit. I don't love him as a starter, like from a rotation piece, but I do like him when he kind of pops up in this spot start role, which he's in here. I believe this would have been Frankie Montas spot in the rotation. So for now, it's going to be Nick Martinez. And I think, again, this is, I think he can do good enough to keep us in this game and get the ball to a Reds bullpen that is still a top, 10 unit in the league, kind of bordering on top 5 in the league this year. But on the other side is really where this kind of, I'm going to hammer the point home with why, I think going against the Marlins is a good decision today. Roddery Munoz has been very inconsistent, and when he's bad, he's really, really bad. And he had a good start last week against the Rays, but when this guy is not on, which means when his stuff, which is pretty good, when he's not getting swing and misses and he's not striking guys out, he walks guys and he gives up home runs. 32 walks in 13 starts this season, Dan. And to make matters worse, he's given up 19 homers and 66 innings pitched. That is the worst home run per 9 mark in the league for any pitcher that's thrown at least 50 innings this year. And the Reds, while they have not hit for average, they have hit the long ball. 11 home runs in their last 6 games, and they hit 9 home runs against the Marlins in a series back at Great American Ballpark right before the All-Star break. So when I add all of those things up, I do think you're getting a discount on the Reds here. And if that price continues to go lower, I may have to, fire a second client play. But for now, this is going to remain in the strong opinion category, but it will be my best bet for the show.
Best bet there from Adam Trigger. Check him out. And as you mentioned, great specials all August long that we'll be rolling through the month here with. Drew, before we get out of here, though, we had Bruce asking us earlier in the show, and it's something I wanted to touch upon, but wanted to get the folks some best bets here at the 30-minute mark. Bruce Cotney was asking, hey, we got a good a good spot to fade Logan Webb after he threw a complete game the last time out. So the only part that worries me maybe about a potential fade spot is it's Happy Pat Corbin Day, and that's who's going to be opposing him in this Giants and Nats game, as the ATM of fading Corbin has been one of the favorite themes here of First Pitch. So any thoughts there on that Giants and Nats matchup and a potential fade spot for Logan Webb? I can't do it with Pat Corbin on the mound, but the question from Bruce still stands. What do you think, Drew?
It's an interesting handicap. I'm not a huge fan of just like fading starters because they had a complete game last time out. First off, like a complete game means you were likely pitching very well. And I'm more of a handicapper, Dan, that's like ride the hot hand. Logan Webb, fastball changeup guy, and going against a Nats offense that really hasn't been all that great. And the Nationals were a great underdog bet early in the season. It's cooled off a little bit. But you bring up the Pat Corbin kind of angle here, and I'm with you. He's not a guy that I'm necessarily looking to bet on. I think he's on the downside of his career, and what he got lit up last time out. I mean, I think it was 10 earned runs, something of that nature. So I actually like the Giants here, Dan. But for me personally, I'm just not into laying minus 175, minus 180. So it was kind of a quick pass. But if you need something, I would be on San Francisco.
There you go. We got you back there, Bruce. And shout out to everyone joining us in the chat. And if you're over on TikTok, Instagram, X, we appreciate you making us a part of your day as well. Over on YouTube, Joseph Alvarado. Seeing that last name, though, triggers me a little bit as a Phillies fan, but we appreciate you tuning in there, Joey. Chris Brady in the chat, RU Zen. Said that's Tyler. You got here, man. You were a little late on Manea Walks Day, all joking aside, but we're appreciating that you're here. Richie Lockhart, Bruce Cotney, that's Ma, N-I-C-A as well. Appreciate you tuning in over there. Ando, Tim York, all you Lunchbox, RJ. We've been looking on the side of milk cartons for you, man. It's good to see you back here in the chat. We appreciate all of you tuning in, and we will be back locked and loaded. Just because football's right around the corner doesn't mean First Pitch is going to be stopping anytime soon. Tuesday edition coming your way with Steve Merrill and Brian Leonard tomorrow, but under half an hour from now, Wager Talk today. Steve Merrill, Teddy Covers back in the hosting seat. Brian Leonard, Ross Benjamin, Brandon, Tokyo Brandon, that is. They're going to be breaking down the MLB card for you. So if you missed anything here, that's where you want to head on over to. Teddy's big game breakdown going to be Patriots-Panthers. So make sure you stick around 30 minutes from now, and following that, the opening line report with Teddy Covers and Drew Martin coming your way. Big thanks to Drew and Adam Trigger. We're looking at the Reds over the Marlins, the best bet for Trig. Houston over the Texas Rangers, the best bet for Drew Martin. You want their true best bets? Head on over to WagerTalk.com. Take advantage of some of those August specials, like getting some free months. That's right, free months. Can't beat free. If it's free, it's for me. Best of luck here tonight, everyone. We'll see you locked and loaded back here Tuesday for First Pitch. Until then, make some money, and we'll see you next time.